The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and thank you for joining our webinar today, Reducing Supply Chain Cost and Increasing Efficiency at Triumph. My name is Bob Jakowski, and I'm here to introduce you to CloudLogic, a strategic solutions provider for Triumph. Now, CloudLogic and Triumph have been partners for well over a decade. So leading our conversation today are two senior supply chain executives from CloudLogic. The first is Tom Cagney. He's the CEO and founder for the company. And secondly is Jaylyn Wallace. She's the Vice President of Product and Client Services. Both Tom and Jaylyn will share the significant value, outcomes, and best practices that Triumph has gained from their relationship with CloudLogic and give you an overview of their solution and how it drove value for the company. So as we begin the presentation, let me dive a bit into both of their backgrounds. As I mentioned, Tom just brings extraordinary vision and experience in the supply chain industry for over 30 years. Much of the time, Tom has been spent serving in the cargo transportation area, logistics, supply chain, and technology needs, working with many aerospace and aviation companies. He also has been the CEO for Seiko Global Logistics and Aerostar Global before founding CloudLogic. Now, Jaylyn has been, again, just like Tom, many years, in this case, over 20, in the logistics and supply chain area, primarily in the aerospace industry. So she's worked with some outstanding companies such as Bombardier, Northrop Grumman, and many others. So what we really want to do is have both of them spend some time discussing not only the evolution of CloudLogic and the relationship, the partnership that they have with Triumph, but talk about, again, the specific outcomes, the best practices, and important, significant information that you can take from today's webinar. Now, with that, I'd like to turn this over to Tom.
Thank you, Bob, for that very nice introduction. And thanks to all of you for attending our session today. I'm certain that all of you are quite busy, and we're glad that you're going to spend some time with us today. And we hope that this partnership story will be helpful for you and more importantly, to be very informative for you. So as Bob mentioned, the webinar today is titled Reducing Supply Chain Costs and Increasing Efficiencies for Triumph. So to begin, I think it's appropriate for me to just set out what the purpose and the desired benefit of our spending time together is. So the purpose of this meeting is basically to provide an explanation of the business challenges that Triumph was experiencing, but that they were able to conquer, and the significant value that Triumph received through their partnership with the team at CloudLogic. Now, we realize that your supply chain challenges may or may not be the same as they experienced at Aerostructures. But we also recognize that certain challenges are just universal and they're not specific to any one type of business or industry. We've all experienced some of those challenges. So from there, we're going to review the results that we have achieved over our time with Triumph, and then Jaylyn's going to give you an overview of the solution that made this value possible. We're also going to answer some of the most frequently asked questions. And finally, we're going to talk about possible next steps, including the opportunity to download additional educational information if you're interested in learning more. And of course, we'd love to just explore the potential of adding value to your specific business unit, just as we've done in other areas of the Aerostructures group. So moving on to the next slide. Let me tell you a little bit about us and what we do. So simply put, CloudLogic is a supply chain platform that provides end-to-end visibility. We, working with Triumph, have developed a solution that complements, not replace, it complements your existing technology. Our solution is designed to improve processes, to give greater access to data, and most importantly, to drive out costs for your organization. It accomplishes that in many ways, but mainly by synchronizing data and simplifying the process flow. It also allows for an interface between internal users in various departments or silos, if you will, and your external users, such as your suppliers and your carriers. We then socialize that information and make it available on an as needed basis to authorized users, of course. So by having that data centralized in real time, your team really gets one version of the truth. Having one version of the truth helps your team make more informed decisions, makes them make those decisions more quickly, basically helps you run your business more effectively and more efficiently. Jaylyn's going to go over more of those details in her presentation, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do. Now, CloudLogix has a long history of working with many sites in the Triumph's Aerostructures group, and we certainly have a vested interest in working with other business units within Triumph, as your company really has been a design partner for many of the product features that you're going to see today. We've been working with Triumph since 2009, and we're proud that we've achieved many milestones along the way. For example, our first order of business was to develop a user-friendly TMS platform, and it basically handles shipping documentation for various carriers and for various modes of transport. After that, we added functionality around carrier bidding and performance reporting. We further expanded the solution to include order management and compliance, and finally completed the cycle with invoice auditing and reconciliation. All of this was accomplished while aligning with Triumph's SAP implementation. We worked directly with SAP to close gaps that existed in the SAP solution and to make those processes flow more efficient. Again, we realize that your challenges may or may not be different. Many of you are using business management systems or ERPs other than SAP, but we want to learn about your specific challenges and look for opportunities to drive costs out and efficiencies into your supply chain. So on that note, we can work with any ERP system in the same way as we have done with SAP. So that's kind of the quick story about our journey with the Aerostructures group. Again, we're going to answer some of the frequently asked questions later in the presentation. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Miss Jaylyn Wallace. Jay?
All right, thanks, Tom. I'm happy to be with you all today. Our team was working with the Aerostructures group in early 2010 when collectively we realized they were facing some pretty significant and painful challenges. One was increased freight spend. They were paying an extraordinary amount of freight, especially on expedited inbound shipments. They had a completely blown freight budget, not only because they were paying for expedited inbound shipments, but they were also paying way too much for outbound freight. They hired contractors to work on specific aircraft sections that they were paying hourly to basically sit around because they were waiting on freight to arrive that they needed to do their jobs. They didn't know ahead of time that it was going to be late. There were also inventory discrepancies because they weren't getting the quantities that they were expecting, or they were completely backlogged in their receiving process due to an increased amount of freight that they didn't expect. This all led to cash flow issues because they were doing things like paying for invoices for material from suppliers that they didn't yet plan for example. Leadership was committed to solving these problems, and CloudLogix was chosen to develop a solution to help get control of these issues. So after review, we determined there were three main causes that we could focus on, which were lack of inbound freight visibility and non-compliance to shipping rules by vendors, as well as internal personnel. What we built was a solution that doesn't require you to replace your existing software. As Tom mentioned, it actually enhances it. So let's quantify how our partnership paid off for Triumph Aerostructures. By providing the CloudLogix solution, Triumph Aerostructures was able to realize a 45% annual reduction in freight spend. That's huge, and it equates to over $3 million. There was also a 95% reduction in unexpected shipments, so no more surprises. I have to tell you real quick a story that occurred several years back before our system came along. So Triumph purchased over 100 aircraft door frames from China, and this was a large order for them, so they were only expecting to have a specific portion of the order coming each month. And instead, what happened was the manufacturer shipped the entire order all at once, and Triumph didn't know about it, and the next thing you know, they had over 100 door frames at their dock. They had no room for all of it, and furthermore, they weren't ready to pay for 100 door frames all at once, and because that invoice for material came right after the freight delivered. So with our solution, they would have seen exactly what type of shipment was registered to move, and they would have had an advance warning or notice of what was coming in. So they could have either stopped it before it shipped, or they could have made proper arrangements to receive it. So you can see how valuable it really is to have inbound visibility. So next, our system is role-based, so everyone could see exactly what they needed to see without a lot of unnecessary information, and they were able to get the answers that they needed in record time. When I talk to people, many of them think that they already have a role-based system with SAP or other ERP systems, but really the difference is those roles are usually siloed by department, such as accounting and procurement, but with our suite, the roles are functional or permission-based. So the siloed information is now socialized in a way that allows users to see the necessary information across those departments so they can be more efficient. The Aerostructures team achieved better control over their shipping rules, so the sites were able to view more information early on in the shipping process to avoid freight bill surprises and make better planning decisions. Overall, they were able to achieve 100% shipping compliance for all orders processed through the system, since their routing guide was now fully automated. As far as accounts payable is concerned, they experienced a smoother invoice reconciliation process, and they also saved an incredible amount of time because they no longer had to hunt down the right person to approve an invoice or manually code invoices with the appropriate GL or cost center. So in the Aerostructures group, when you're talking about a couple thousand invoices per week, they saved over 20 hours per week in processing time, and that's a conservative estimate. So overall, I'm really proud of what we've built because it helps to address the primary issues that face all supply chains in one platform without having to completely replace your existing software. So let's take a deeper dive into the solution. After evaluating their pain points, we determined overall that Triumph had a visibility issue in 3 key areas. We then built a solution that provides visibility and manages business rules in the areas of order and vendor activity, inbound and outbound shipping controls, and freight invoice management. So by illuminating these 3 areas, we're able to provide Triumph with a complete view of their freight picture. And once we centralize that data, they then had enhanced reporting capabilities in all of those areas. So more data means better decisions. So let's take a closer look. We're starting here with the dashboard. Essentially what we're doing by looking at this image that you see here is we're able to bring all of the necessary data to the forefront that requires your action or attention. You'll notice anything that's red in this example is something that needs your immediate attention. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, our system is also role-based, so everyone sees only what they need to see and nothing that they don't. What we're looking at here is the highest level user, so you can see every single business area, but depending on your role, you'll only see the tiles that are pertinent to your specific business needs. So the goal here is to make things as clear and simple as possible. So any answers that you need to find are usually available within one click from this dashboard. So with this solution, you're able to achieve end-to-end supply chain visibility for all your stakeholders on a need-to-know basis. You can manage process exceptions more easily, and you can see the centralized data so you can make better decisions. So next is our order management section. This section takes purchase order data from your system and it houses it here so your suppliers can log in and they can release material against that data. We manage any early and overship business rules here for you, so the system can prevent someone from moving forward with a shipment if it falls outside of your purchase agreement. As far as buyers and procurement personnel, they also have access to this section, so they can approve or disapprove any supplier requests that happen to deviate from that purchase agreement. So the benefit here is someone from your facility can have immediate visibility over what suppliers are planning to do before the freight actually moves. This allows you to prevent those early and overships so you can avoid surprise invoices for material, as well as plan appropriately for incoming freight, such as the door frame story. So more importantly, you can know about potential issues or shortages as well earlier on in the process, so you can take necessary avoidance steps before a potentially severe disruption occurs. So now it's time for us to move on to the next step, which comes after order management, which is shipping. So regarding inbound freight, once a supplier releases their material, they're then taken to the shipping portion of the system where they enter the weight, dimensions, etc. We have other business rules that live in this section too. You get to decide what carriers and service levels your vendors can see and select. Basically, the options are endless. It can function however you need it to function as far as what your routing or shipping rules might dictate. So we also have that premium authorization feature that I mentioned earlier that we implemented for the Aerostructures team. That can require that a supplier enter a special code to unlock premium service levels for expedite shipping. This part of our suite handles outbound shipments too. So for shipments leaving Triumph, our solution allows shipping personnel to get a real-time view of the estimated freight costs as well as the delivery estimate so that you can make the best routing decision possible every single time. So in this slide, we've used FedEx as an example, but we can display any and all carriers you have here. So throughout our system, visibility is key. We want you to see everything you need to see so that we can keep up with the theme here, which is allowing you and your suppliers to make the best possible decisions and avoid unexpected shipments or invoice charges. This is one of the areas, the shipping portion, this is one of the areas where cost savings are recognized pretty much immediately. So once a carrier has been chosen, it's time to move on to booking. Once the carrier is selected, a user can obtain all the necessary shipping documents here, such as shipping labels, bills of lading, etc. We are truly a one-stop shop for shipping, so no one needs to go to multiple places to book freight, such as carrier websites, emails, etc. One of the really cool features of this area is our ability to send ASNs, or advanced shipping notices, back to your system for inbound freight. So basically the way it works is once an inbound shipment is booked, we generate that ASN that goes to Triumph system to let you know what's coming in, how it's shipping, and when you can expect it. The supplier gets a receiving label, which you see there on the right, and they attach that to the freight. So once it arrives at your facility, someone can scan that label and it will immediately marry up that shipment to the ASN and it will automatically create a receipt for that order. So this completely automates the receiving process for you and it saves time hunting down packing slips and entering data. So overall, we've worked to automate processes and bring that visibility to the shipping activity, again, before the freight moves, so you can avoid those surprises and make those better decisions. Now on to invoicing. Basically, we've completely simplified this freight payment process with this module. So gone are the days of hunting down approvals, codes, payment information, or any other answers. So basically, our system imports all of your carrier freight invoices via various methods, such as EDI, spreadsheets, manual uploads, etc. Basically, whatever your carriers are capable of sending, we can receive it and import it. We can then assign those invoices to the appropriate person or department or site that's responsible for approving them. We also audit them per your specifications, and we auto-assign the appropriate GL or cost center based on your rules. All invoices are then packaged up into a clean statement for approval every week. So the person reviewing the invoices only has to worry about the items that were flagged in the audit process. Those would be the red items that are in the image you see here. The goal is to manage to exception, so you don't have to go through every single invoice, unless of course you wanted to. So once the statement has been approved in full, a notification goes to AP for the proverbial baton handoff. The system tells them how much to pay each carrier, and then they issue that payment in their standard accounting system, and then they enter those payment details in the CloudLogic suite. As soon as the payment information is entered here and the items are moved to paid status, the carrier receives an immediate automatic notification letting them know the full remittance details for the payment, so they know exactly what is coming into them and how to apply those funds once they're received. So an incredible amount of time is saved with this process because the right people see what they need to see when they need to see it. All the actions are logged and accounted for, and by completing this process, we have now successfully connected orders to shipments to invoices. Everything is cross-referenced, so all the interested parties can search for exactly what they need so they can quickly get the full picture. So for the Aerostructures division specifically, one example is we used to get these big reports from FedEx looking for payment status on invoices. What used to take hours to search and reconcile now takes literally 30 seconds or less. They can copy tracking numbers, paste them all at once, and then they can export the search results and send them right back. So now that we've addressed the input of information in the three main areas of orders, shipping, and invoicing, it's now time to address the fun part, which is data. Okay, it might not be that fun, but at least it's easier to manage here. So by connecting information from each of these silos, you now have the comprehensive data you need to make better decisions. So again, everything is now cross-referenced, so you have easy access to exactly what you need to provide answers or to measure KPIs so you can optimize your supply chain further. So this leads to efficiency, resiliency, and most of all, cost reduction. So this is sample data that you see here on this slide, but basically you can easily determine things like how much you're spending on premium freight, or how much it might cost over a period of time for a supplier to send you a specific part, or average transit time, invoice exception rate. There's so many options now that robust data is available. So I could talk all day about this system, but I know I've covered quite a bit with you today. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions at all about what I've shown you or anything else you're curious about, and I would love to chat with you. I want to thank everybody for your time, and with that, I will turn it back over to my friend Bob.
Thanks, Jaylyn. At this time, what we'd like to do is open up the floor for questions that you may have. And in polling some of the different attendees, we do have a number of frequently asked questions that we thought we could cover with you right up front here today. The first one for Jaylyn and for Tom is, let me pull this up. Is this solution only available for the Aerostructure division?
I can take that. So while it's true, the Aerostructures division worked together with us as a team to help create some of the features that you see here. We have written this in an extremely modular and nimble fashion. So we can implement this system to work for any division or any industry vertical for that matter.
Thanks, Jaylyn. Appreciate that. Here's our next question. Doesn't my ERP system do this?
I could take that one. Actually, we get asked this question a lot. And the simple answer is probably not. Now, while your ERP has most of your internal data, it usually doesn't have access to the data that is provided by your suppliers and by your carriers. And also the data in most ERPs is usually very siloed and difficult to present in a user-friendly format. So as mentioned, our system centralizes that data from you, from your carriers and your suppliers, and makes it easily accessed and provides reporting and compliance features that can only be provided when you have real-time data.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. Here's our next question. How would a deployment for my site work since you're already a provider for Triumph?
I'll take this. So basically, from a contractual standpoint, we would hope that it would be very easy to set up. But as far as the technical requirements, we can basically deploy this system. We would deploy an instance just for you, and it would be done however it needs to work for you. So we could do it on a based on separate operating company or by site, facility, department. However we need to set this up, we would basically deploy an instance for your business need.
Thank you, Jaylyn. The next question is really, how do we get started? How do we engage with CloudLogic?
I'll take that one, and that's a question, of course, we love to get. So it actually is answered pretty well in the next slide, if we could move on to that. So in the next 24 hours, you're going to receive an email from us. And in that email is going to be the webinar slide deck. There's going to be a link to the recording and also a 3-minute software demo. And you could share all of that, with your colleagues, friends, loved ones. I'm sure you will. Also, we want to provide the opportunity for some additional education if you're interested. We could send you a white paper on a success story that we've had. We could also send you a buyer's guide, which is, if you've never used one, is very, very helpful. It kind of helps you really coalesce around what kind of system you want, what questions you want to ask, and it really helps kind of put a finer point on that for your buying decision. We'll also send you a solution overview. And most importantly, we'd love to be engaged with you, and we do a no-cost ROI assessment. And what that means is we get members of your team and members of the CloudLogix team, and we get together and we just do a process review. Let's talk about what it is you're currently doing and look to see if there's a possible solution where we could be helpful. And this isn't a sales call, sales presentation, anything like that. It's simply a working session to see if there's some problem solving that we can do together. So we would encourage you to do that. And in just a moment here, Bob's going to give you some of the contact information for us. But I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to the presenters, Bob and Jaylyn. And of course, thanks to all of you for spending your time with us. We hope it was worthwhile for you, and we would welcome the opportunity to speak with you further. So thank you very much. Bob, back to you.
Thanks, Tom. It really is intriguing, the no-cost ROI assessment you talked about, Tom, because it's a great way for everybody on our call here to look at a quantifiable way to look at where they have gaps or issues or opportunities to improve their supply chain, but also to help get your help to build with Jaylyn a business case in terms of where's the ROI, where's the savings, like the substantial savings that you've been able to already achieve. So that sounds like a fantastic opportunity. Let me share with you and with the audience, here's the contact information for all of us focused on the success at Triumph. Tom and Jaylyn obviously are our keynote speakers today. And here is Tom and Jaylyn's email address, as well as their cell phones. So you're welcome to reach out to them directly and carry on the conversation about your specific opportunities and challenges that you may have. Dale and Nick are also listed here. Dale's the Chief Revenue Officer, and Nick is in charge of business development. So both of them will also be involved in terms of serving and working together with you on a plan for success. After our webinar today, you'll also receive, as Tom mentioned, you'll receive an email, and we'll have some important information available to you, important links to buyer's guides, ROI guides, and things that we found that each of you find very valuable in terms of your journey, looking at how to enhance, improve, and optimize your supply chain. So with that today, we'd like to thank each of you for joining us. On behalf of Tom, Jaylyn, and the entire CloudLogix team, we appreciate your attendance and participation, and we look forward to serving you in the future. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.